I'm watching ABC's This Week with George Snuffleupagus, and he brought on a guy named Stephen Brill, who wrote an article in Time Magazine, cover story for Time Magazine, right? And he breaks down what's wrong with healthcare in America. Now, this guy, Stephen Brill, used to be a conservative, probably is a conservative, I don't know. But he looked into it. He's like most conservatives. Once they, actually look into the problem and they see the facts of it, they're like, oh, remember he used to be, so anyway, he used to be pro-charter school, then he looked into it, now he gets it. Oh, charter schools are shitty. So here's Stephen.
So he's a thoughtful guy.
He's a thoughtful guy.
Right.
So he looked into healthcare costs, and he found out what was really killing us in the healthcare. And let's just listen to what he has to say on George Snuffleupagus.
Medicare, as I point out in the article, is very efficient at most things. It buys healthcare really efficiently, which is a great irony because it's supposed to be, the big government bureaucracy. Where Medicare is not efficient is where Congress, because of lobbyists, have handcuffed Medicare. Medicare can't negotiate what it pays for any kind of drugs. It can't negotiate what it pays for wheelchairs or diabetes testing equipment. And if Congress took those handcuffs off of Medicare, you could get about half of the spending cuts that we're sitting around here talking about.
Is that true?
Oh, really? Hey, thanks, Dudley Do-Right, but that's never going to happen.
Right.
Okay, that's never, so, you can get, we're going to get back to cutting people's benefits now. But thank you very much. So what he just said was that if we just let Medicare, so there's a law that says Medicare can negotiate with pharmaceutical companies to lower prices of their, and if they did that, they would save a lot of money.
What's amazing is that that's it. They will not let Medicare negotiate with pharmaceutical companies, which means at some point, and we know when, we passed bills that just said that. Like, I mean, how in good conscience do you go to the United States Congress and do that?
So he just lays out the problem. There's the problem. Our government is bought and paid for by lobbyists from the health insurance and pharmaceutical companies. And if we could just have Medicare negotiate the way they should be able to, we could save billions and billions of dollars.
Half of the number we're talking about right now.
We could just, that could get rid of half the problem. That's a big part of why we're paying twice as much for healthcare in America as the rest of the world. So you would think what would happen is everybody on the panel would go, are you crazy? Is that really happening?
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And they start screaming at the top of their lungs. That's not what happens. Can you believe that's not what happens? What happens is this guy, Steve Ratner's on, he's the former car czar, right? And he's now a private equity guy. And he's on the panel. And here's what he has to say back to this Mr. guy who just made some good points.
Is that true?
You could get a fair amount. And look, if Medicare were simply able to get the same prices for prescription drugs that Medicaid gets, it would save $120 billion over 10 years. So that's roughly
actually a little more.
But there's a fundamental point here, Stephen. I thought your piece was great, and I think your points are right. But I also don't want people to be confused.
And by confused, he means he doesn't want people to realize they're about to get screwed over.
Right, exactly.
That's what he means by confused.
I don't want people to be confused. Your government is in the pocket of the pharmaceutical companies on health care. And I don't want to confuse people about that.
Yes. So now he goes on. He's got a little bit more to say. So the guy just laid out what the problem was. He goes, all right, it might be right, but here, don't want people to get confused. Let's go. Let's see the next clip.
I don't believe that we can cut our way, change the pricing, do all the things you're talking about, and still save Medicare. The average person who is at Medicare retirement age has paid in something like $122,000 into the system. They will get back $387,000 of benefits. That's 3 times. You're not going to reduce that 387 by hospital cuts and this and that. We have to still have fundamental Medicare reforms to make those numbers.
So do you see what he's saying? He's like, yes, your numbers might be correct, and that could save us all that hundreds of billions of dollars, but I didn't come on this show to change my goddamn mind. Okay? So I'm just going to keep saying this shit over and over again. And so, and his idea, this is a big canard conservatives like to pull. He goes, so if your solution to our Medicare problem, if it doesn't solve the whole problem, we got to throw it out.
Right.
Even though that his solution would solve half the problem, it doesn't matter. Still, we got to cut.
Throw it. Got to cut. Right. And they're, I mean, just, first of all, I don't believe those numbers.
Right.
I don't believe either of his numbers. I don't believe the put $122,000 in, the take $387,000 out. But your point is undeniably terrific. Like, here's step 1 to solving a big part of the problem. Whatever. Here's what I do.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yes.
Whole problem solved.
Yeah. We got it. Just cut it. Get rid of it. Again, ignoring the problem that seniors are still going to get sick. they're still going to need health care. Someone's still going to pay for it, and it's still not going to be old, sick retirees.
And what I would like to see asked occasionally on these shows is, do we want to live in a country where, as we get an aging population and it's going to continue to age, and those people get sick, do we want to live in a country that shrugs its shoulders? Is that? So until you have an alternative that actually takes care of those people, because I don't know who else is going to do it other than the government, then shut up.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And again, the point is that somehow the rest of the world manages to give health care to every one of its citizens from 1 year old to 1 million years old. America, we just can't do 65 to 90. We're having a hard time figuring it out.
Can't do it. Yeah.
We're just having a hard time. Hey, richest country in the world, we can't do it, all right? So he comes back, he pushes back. Mr. Smart Guy about health care pushes back.
Well, if you put Medicare in the context of the larger healthcare system, and this is something that everybody at this table is going to think that I should go to a mental hospital when I get finished saying this. The government and all of us would actually save money if you lowered, I said lowered, the age for Medicare. If the Medicare age were 60 instead of 65, the economy and the taxpayers would actually save money.
So we'd actually save money. So this guy's saying if the Medicare age lowered to 60, you'd save a ton of money. But I say, hey, this ain't Europe, so save your fucking breath, buddy, okay? So exactly what he's saying is the opposite of what everyone else is saying in the media, which is we have to raise the retirement age. He's saying, no, we lower the Medicare age because Medicare is actually more efficient than any other healthcare system in the country, and it saves everyone money. But they're not going to do that, right? Because it's just in their head that Medicare wastes money and we can't afford it, even though it's actually a cost-saving instrument.
So we know at some point we're going to reform Medicare. That seems like an inevitability. Right,
when you say reform, you mean cut the money.
Right, and there's no way that reform isn't going to be raising the age, cutting the distribution.
It's going to be backwards than what we need.
Right, it's going to be backwards than what we need. And if there is and you know that argument, by literally the most sober, knowledgeable guy I have ever heard on a Sunday morning talk show, ever, that's going to be like, yeah, Steve, I'm sorry, the meeting's at 4. Guys, we're meeting at 1.
Yeah, this guy's Steve Brill. He's an intelligent guy. He breaks down the healthcare problem in easy to understand terms. So I'm going to miss him.
Yeah, exactly. It was good having him on. We'll never hear from him again.
I'm going to miss him. That's the last we're going to. You know, I just want to make for the point he's making is that if we lowered the Medicare age, we'd save billions of dollars. And you know what that would do, Ben? That would only make us lower it again. And then where does that lead us? Pretty soon everybody would have affordable health care.
No, we don't want that.
We can't have that. Okay, so George Will gets involved with it. Ready? Here we go.
That is one argument. Here's an argument against that for a different kind of reform. All the big numbers, billions and trillions, 12 cents is the most important number. 12 cents is the portion of every healthcare dollar paid by the person receiving the healthcare. Right. Someone else is paying the rest. It was 47 cents 50 years ago when Jack Kennedy was president. Now, let me ask the 5 of you a question. You go to the doctor and he or she says, I want to give you the following test. How many of you 5 say, how much is that going to cost?
Say, give me 2.
So George Will's, his solution to our twice as expensive health care is to have sick people start shopping around once they get to the emergency room. Yeah, you know what? When I'm and like passing out from dizzy spells from my appendix bursting, or in the middle of a gallbladder attack, or if I hit my head on the windshield, that's when I'm in the mood to do a little bargain shopping.
Totally, yeah, exactly. You know, let's just, you know what? I hear you. Thank you. You're making a good offer here at St. John's. We're going to run over to Cedars. Yeah. Is there any way we could borrow a tourniquet for the drive?
Yes, that's the problem with our health care is people aren't negotiating for stuff when they're sick. That is the best time to try to find, you know, if I get a fever, I start clipping coupons. I don't know about you, but that's what I do. Okay.
I usually go online and look for them. See who's got the best rates.
Maybe Groupon, maybe get a Groupon.
Totally, yeah.
For a CAT scan.
See who's having a sale.
Yes. Get a Groupon for a CAT.
Yeah. If you're gonna like sever your arm in a gardening accident, you want to do it over President's Day weekend.
Or 4th of July.
Yeah, when the discounts are there. Yeah.
Sure, they'll beat anybody's CAT scan price or match it. Yes. So.
Or your CAT scan
is free. So this idea of shopping around for a better deal on healthcare when you're sick, this catches fire on the panel.
Oh, good. Right.
And here's another young lady who says that same idea in a different way. Let's listen to it.
The important part about your piece was that you mentioned that this is a seller's market. There is no transparency in the market. There's no competition. There's no ability for consumers to look around. We spend hours deciding which toaster we're going to buy. We put no such thought or work into where we're going to get our health care.
Okay, can I tell you the difference between... See, here's the difference between buying a toaster, you know, shopping for a toast. Why I spend more time shopping for a toaster than I do when I'm shopping for healthcare is because when I'm shopping for a toaster, I'm not lying on the floor bleeding. That would maybe be why I spend more time shopping for a toaster, you jackass.
Right. Yeah, it's possible.
And you know, back to George Will's point about this whole thing about you have to shop around, and that's why prices are high. Consumers don't care how much stuff costs because we have insurance. We've already done this experiment of letting consumers of healthcare buy their own healthcare. It's called the 50 million Americans who are uninsured in America, and what happens is they end up paying the highest price for healthcare because they don't have the leverage that Medicare has to negotiate a cost of an MRI down from $9,000 to $900. So that is the big difference. We've already tried this damn experiment, and they just keep saying, just keep doing it. They just keep ignoring it. It's like they are impenetrable to this guy's accurate information, and it's like water off a duck's ass to them, and they just keep saying, shop around, cut Medicare. What are you not getting about this, right?
I love that they want you to go to your primary care physician, which you should already have shopped around for. And then when he tells you that you have cancer and you have to go to an oncologist, that you want him to sort of, what does that oncologist charge? What's the rate? Yeah.
Yes.
What's that gonna run me? Yeah.
Because there's a good chance I might die, but I still want to save some money for if I'm dead.
Yeah. I don't want the best one. I want the cheapest oncologist.
Yes. So she just tells him to do she tells him the toaster thing. So he tells her what's wrong with this theory. So here comes our man again, Stephen Brill, is going to tell everybody what's wrong with this theory of buying your own health care.
That's the moral
point. If the
point.
consumers you have in mind have the money, because you're saying they're not going to have insurance, have the money to make those decisions the way my friend Mr. Ratner can. And that is not the world we live in. They're making decisions now, those consumers who don't have insurance, because they don't have the money, they can't write the checks, they're being sued for their bills. You know, this world you described.
But once they go on Medicare,
So he just, again, tells them this fantasy world that you're describing doesn't exist.
Every word this guy says makes me like him more.
Yes.
Like he does not sound like a morning show guest in any way.
Well, I like how earlier in the clip when he said, you know, you're going to put me in a mental hospital if we're saying this. If you lower the age of Medicare, we'd all save money. Get that guy out of here.
Why would, right, exactly. He wants to give more people health care and make it cheaper and affordable for us all and maybe grow our economy over the next 100 years, make the country safe for our children. Fuck that guy.
Oh my.
Yeah. Also, I love the comparisons of things, of big ideas about government to small ideas about your house.
Yes. Like as if those are analogous.
The healthcare problem is the same. We shop for a toaster, yet we won't shop for an oncologist. Well, it's not the same thing. And by the way, nobody shops for a toaster. They buy the first toaster they see.
Yes.
Right? Or they tell, oh, my friend has a nice toaster. First of all, I haven't bought a toaster in 25 years. Right? And it's the same point that Republicans make about the government. And John Boehner made it in the first clips that we played there. You can't kick the can down the road. You can't spend more money than you have. Associated, because everyone will go, that's right, I live in a home, I make $80,000 a year, I know what I have to spend on my mortgage, that leaves me with this for school and this for this, and I can't exceed it. Maybe a little tiny bit in debt. As if your household has to fund an army and protect yourself from your invading neighbors.
Right.
You know, it doesn't, I mean, it's totally freaking illogical. Or your healthcare has to provide, or your household has to provide medical care for your entire neighborhood. Right? But that doesn't stop them, and those toaster, and they seem to work. That's a great point about the toaster. No, it's the dumbest point on the planet about the toaster.
And of course, he tells them why that's wrong. You're living in a fantasy world. People are already trying to buy their health care. They're uninsured. They're paying the highest prices. And what do? Yeah. Talk over him. Right. They talk over him, dismiss him. This guy's got to be nuts. And I love how George Snuffleupagus said there, after he tells him all this stuff in the first clip.
That's true. You could get a fair amount of...
Did you hear George? So he tells him, and George Snuffleupagus goes, is that true?
That can't be right.
Is that true?
Yeah.
George apparently unaware he was going to have this guy on his show this week.
Yeah.
You didn't know he was going to be on the show this week? This guy who wrote this article at the front page of Time Magazine?
Right, sometimes it's hard when you're hosting a show, Jimmy. You know, you got an author coming on, you want to read the whole book, and apparently George couldn't read the whole Time Magazine article.
Couldn't read the Time Magazine article.
Probably 850 850 words.
Is that true? What do you say, guy Skarzar, who knows nothing about this? Let's ask George Will, who's been wrong about everything since 1953. What do you think, George? George Will, a guy who combs his real hair like it's a toupee. What do you think?